Hey, real quick test with your Dan before you go into test.
Keep going for me.
Testing 1 2, testing 1 2. Test.
And that's at the podium?
Yeah, I'm at the podium, and I just want to make sure that we can hear you and you hear me.
Yes.
Yes.
Hello, Amber. How are you? This is Dan Putnam with Hillsborough County Communications. I have your video. If I can just get a mic check from you, please.
Check, check, mic.
That sounds good to me. Are you presenting anything today?
No, sir.
All right, perfect. Well, your audio and video are good to go.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good meeting. And if anyone else has joined the meeting recently and has not given a mic or video test, now is the time to do so. Just give me a shout. My name is Dan Putnam. I'm with Hillsborough County Communications. So David, I see you speaking. You are muted.
Helps if I hit the unmute button.
And there you go. I can hear you now.
All right, thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Good afternoon, Stephen. This is Dan Putnam with Hillsborough County Communications. I see your video. If I can just get a mic check from you, please.
Testing, testing.
Excellent. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Who? Viv? 1 street south of the center? Make it silly.
Good afternoon, Stephanie. This is Dan Putnam with Hillsborough County Communications. Can you hear me? Stephanie, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. We have your audio and your video.
Fabulous, thank you.
Thank you.
We are ready in the room to start the meeting. Three, two, one. All right. Welcome to the November 8th, 2021 regular meeting of the Hillsborough County City County Planning Commission. We thank you for attending this meeting. Your comments and participation is encouraged. To minimize feedback in the audio, all participants in the meeting will be muted until it is their opportunity to speak. Planning commissioners should raise their hand or unmute themselves and turn on their camera to indicate that they would like to speak. Please be sure to state your name at the beginning of your remarks for the benefit of the clerk. There will be an opportunity for members of the public to provide comments. When your name is called, you will be unmuted when it is your turn to speak. Please wait until the chair calls on you to begin speaking. State your name at the beginning of your comments and adhere to the time limits. If anyone has difficulties or is watching via HTV and would like to provide comments to be included in the record for local government hearing, please email them to planner@plancom.org. That's planner@plancom.org, planner@plancom.org. For action items, the meeting will be conducted as follows. The agenda item will be introduced. Staff will give their presentation with a 15-minute time limit. The applicant will be given the opportunity to make a presentation with a 15-minute time limit. Following presentations, members of the public may address the Planning Commission when recognized by the chair. Public comment will be heard for 3 minutes per person. The applicant will be afforded a 3-minute period for rebuttal response. Planning commissioners will ask questions. Public comment will be closed. Then upon a motion, a second, and discussion, a vote will be taken. With that introduction, I'll ask Commissioner Cardenas to lead us in the prayer and pledge of allegiance. All please rise.
Today, we focus on the objectives we have as planning commissioners to fulfill our mission, to promote, coordinate, collaborate, and facilitate with all people in creating and implementing the long-range planning and vision for our community, to improve economic development, quality of life, and provide value-added services. Help us to make decisions that fulfill that mission. Bless us as we meet together today. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner Cardenas. With that, I'd like to go ahead and ask the clerk to please call roll.
Good afternoon. Bernstein,
Here.
Cardenas,
Here.
Dix,
Here.
Handy,
Here.
Crest,
Here.
Linkus,
Here.
Marino,
Here.
Powell,
Here.
Dickerson,
Here.
Rodriguez,
Here.
Joseph.
Here.
Thank you. You have a quorum.
Thank you. The next item up is the approval of the minutes for the following meetings. The regular meeting, September 14th, 2021. Public hearing on City Plan Amendments, September 14th, 2021. Public hearing on City of Tampa Plan Amendments, September 14th, 2021. Regular meeting, October 4th, 2021, and the public hearing on Hillsborough County Plan Amendments, October 4th, 2021. Is there a motion to approve?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Marino, a second by Commissioner Powell. All right, is there any further discussion on this item? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to take a roll call vote on this item.
Bernstein,
Yes.
Cardenas,
Yes.
Dix,
Yes.
Handy,
Yes.
Kress,
Yes.
Linkus,
Yes.
Marina,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Joseph.
Yes.
Motion carried 9-0.
Thank you. All right, next up on the agenda, we have the presentation of plaques to former Commissioner Derek Dowdy. Have him come in. We have two plaques for you. First here we have a plaque from the Planning Commission. In recognition and appreciation for 13 years of exemplary service on the Hillsborough County City County Planning Commission, and vision, leadership, and commitment to improving the quality of life in our community. It's one from the Planning Commission for you, and we also have, this round count destroying things here. Let's see. We also have one here for you from Hillsborough County Board of County Commissioners, presented to Derek Dowdy for service to the Hillsborough County City County Planning Commission, September 2008 through September 2021. Presented this first day of September 2021 by this Board of County Commissioners of the Hillsborough County, Florida.
Was reminiscing since my last meeting actually, and shared a little bit of this at our board banquet to a couple of folks. There's only one thing in my life that I've held on to longer than the position I held on this commission, and that's my wife. And I'll attribute that to a lack of a re-education process. But, I would like to share, I mean, I said a lot at our last meeting, but I would like to share that I personally am honored to have served with such a group of talented and passionate and intelligent people, this group and those before you that I served with. I feel privileged to have been able to be supported by such a talented staff, Tracy, I so many, but I would get some and so I won't, but all of them. Always willing to provide insights and opinions and data for my questions. And I feel blessed to have served for a long period of time with such a wide variety of folk that all have the best interests of the county at heart when we even have to get there. I just consider myself very lucky, and I think.
Thank you, Commissioner Doughty. I just want to say thank you personally. I've learned a lot from you in my time on the Planning Commission. You were one of the last people who was here when I came on, and just being able to learn from you, hear about things that went on, not in this organization, but in just all around the county throughout history. It's really taught me a lot, and you will be definitely missed by this chairman for sure. So thank you very much for your services, community service.
Thank you.
Thanks, Eric.
Great. On to our next item of business for this meeting. Item number 3 is the election of officers. So according to the Planning Commission bylaws, we hold our election of officers every year at our November meeting. Based on the information we have from our statement of interest form circulation, we have preliminary people for, it's like all of the offices, but I wanted to open it up to the commissioners at this point for nominations for anyone from the floor.
Chairman, you may want to do that office by office.
Oh, office, okay. Well, I will open it up then for chair first. Are there any nominations for chairman from the floor? So far, we have Nigel Joseph, myself, and Commissioner Cody Powell. Any further nominations for chair? Seeing any? All right, we'll move on to vice chair.
Well, Mr. Chairman,
Oh, Commissioner Dix, sorry.
find out who wins because that might affect those for vice chair and all that.
Oh, okay. All right, then I'll turn it over to you, Tracy, to do the voting.
Each one of you should have ballots for each office in front of you. Since there are no names to add from the floor, the nominees are stated there. If you'll take your ballot for chair and mark it, print your name on your ballot, please. I'll come around and collect those in just a minute and we'll tally them up. Oh, yeah. Excuse me. Okay, thank you. Okay, I have for Commissioner Joseph, I have the following votes from Commissioner Andy. This is the blank. Commissioner Crest, Joseph, Commissioner Cardenas, Commissioner Reno, Commissioner Bernstein, Commissioner Dix, and
Tracy, I didn't realize that we were supposed to put our name on them, so I would have a blank pledge.
that's Commissioner Linkus. Thank you. And then for Commissioner Powell, I have Commissioner Powell voting. So we have an 8-1 re-election of our current chair, serve as the new chair.
Thank you. All right. Okay, so thank you all for your vote of confidence.
Congratulations.
So again, thank you, Commissioner Dix. All right, on to the next position, vice chair. Look for nominations from the floor for vice chair from any of the commissioners. We have Commissioner Bernstein and Commissioner Powell. Yes, Commissioner Bernstein.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At this time, I want to withdraw my candidacy for the vice chair.
That leaves Commissioner Powell. Are there any nominations from the floor at this time? Commissioner Hand, yes.
I'd like to nominate Commissioner Linkus. I'm afraid that I have to resign my position in December because of my Fulbright, so. Her for your choice.
All right.
Thank you. Are there any other nominations from the floor from the commissioners? Not seeing any. Turn it over to Tracy to make announcements.
Well, and congratulations.
All right. Would you like to say a word, Commissioner Powell? Or,
Very much. I appreciate it.
welcome back. All right, now to the next position, member at large. Oh, we don't have anyone for a member at large right now, because Commissioner Powell and myself had our names in there. Are they nominations from the floor? The commissioners for a member at large?
I think is on the list.
Marty, I got an old list or something here, all right.
Yeah, we added that, I apologize, some of it was in the agenda packet.
It's all right.
But the ballot should be correct.
Yeah, the ballot is correct.
Right.
Yes, all right. Yeah, with these. Sweet. All right. Commissioner Press, all right. Is there any, do any of the commissioners have any nominations from the floor at this point in time for member at large? Yes, Commissioner Hand.
I just have a question. Member at large, that means like third in line. Yes.
Yes,
That means what?
I'll defer to the attorney.
yes.
Okay, thank you.
That's the simple.
Just for clarification, and when we get to it, I also don't know what the role of NPO member, and then it also said, I don't see a ballot that would one on the agenda that said River, TAC. Okay,
Those are committee appointments that the chair will be making after
Well-
elect officers.
Well, the MPO is elected. Sorry.
I'm sorry, you're right.
And it's technically the TPO, but yes, the TPO member is elected, but the River Board TAC is appointed by the chair.
so the MPO is a member of the planning commission that serves on the MPO, is that how that works?
Yeah, now the TPO,
Right.
the non-voting appointment.
It's a voting.
But it's not the TPO CAC, it's actually the TPO.
Correct.
Correct.
Yeah.
Interesting, okay.
All right. Okay, we were at nominations and there were none. Just check one more time for member at large. All right, I'll turn it over to Tracy to make the announcements.
Commissioner Kress, congratulations.
Congratulations, Commissioner Press. All right. Did you want to say a word or anything, Commissioner Press?
No, thank you for your voting.
All right, on to our next position. We have TPO member. And in that position, we have Commissioner Powell is the only one signed up. Are there any nominations by the commissioners from the floor at this point in time? Yes, Commissioner Kraft.
I'd like to nominate Commissioner Handy, now that she has a better understanding of what the role is. She can accept it or not.
I should probably find out what what that commitment entails before I accept. Is that a monthly?
Yes, the TPO typically meets monthly. It is the Wednesday morning following this meeting most months. So it's this coming Wednesday morning, for example, then it'll be the same in December. But it's a Wednesday morning meeting. I believe it starts at 9:30 or 10 o'clock.
9 or 10. What is that?
Well, I would be very interested and honored, but it's probably more than I honestly can do.
It starts at 10 o'clock.
Please, Commissioner Dix.
Commissioner Kress, her name is listed as a candidate for alternate. You don't want her to be a member?
I do not, because of the time commitment.
Want to fill that if needed.
Thank you.
Right. Are there any more discussions or does anyone have any nominations? Not seeing any from the floor at this point in time, then I will turn it over again to Mr.
Powell, like you're the appointee for attending the MPO meeting.
Congratulations, sir.
I appreciate that.
Go ahead. Knock off the next one while we're at it. Commissioner Kress will be the.
Well, Commissioner Christine also had his name.
Commissioner Burke.
Commissioner Bernstein,
Yeah.
still there.
Oh, sorry.
See what happens when you speak when the chair doesn't call on you?
We're anxious. We're anxious to have a real vote.
And I would be happy to withdraw my name and wear my support to Commissioner Bernstein, as the MPO.
Okay, that's making it real easy with this. Yeah, I'll take care of that then, all right. Well, let me just check, there aren't any nominations for TPO alternate from the commissioners? No? No? All right. Congratulations, Commissioner Bernstein.
Thank you for
Apparently they're having a hard time hearing us. So if everyone can project if they're talking, the mics might be able to pick us up better. There are these little things here, so they are trying to capture a large area. Thank you.
So on to our ad hoc committees and boards. At this point in time, you guys can see everybody who's listed as showing interest in the ad hoc committees and boards. I wanted to know if there were any nominations or if anyone had any interest at this point in time and wanted to be added to any of these. Nope, not seeing any interest at this time. I guess I'll go ahead and make these decisions. Going one more time, because Commissioner Powell may end up with a couple more, so, yes, Commissioner Handy.
I'm sorry, but I don't know what these committees are.
Would you like to speak on that a bit, Ms. Sornita?
Sure. So the Planning Commission has an appointee to the Hillsborough River Board Technical Advisory Committee. They meet monthly and it is on, the next one is Tuesday, the 16th. So it must be the third Tuesday. I think that's right. They meet at 1:30 in the afternoon. The other committees on the list, there's a budget committee that meets ad hoc, usually a couple of times during the spring to review the budget materials that we have to put together to submit to the county annually. And then the Public Information Committee is the committee that also meets on an ad hoc basis to review plans for major public education events. One of the primary things that they oversee is the awards program that was held about 2 weeks ago. So did I miss a committee?
And what is the river?
It's the Hillsborough River. There is a river board that is made up of one member from Tampa, one member from Temple Terrace, and one member from Hillsborough County. They have a technical advisory committee that advises them. And the Planning Commission has a seat on the technical advisory committee.
Advises them on what sort of matters?
It varies from things all related to the health of the Hillsborough River. So, for example, they recently reviewed a fertilizer ordinance that the county was looking at enacting. They've look at different things from SwiftMed and other entities, and water quality, and the river board was put in place to basically plan for and improve the quality of the river.
Thank you for that.
Of course.
So with that, does anyone else have any interest in any of the boards or committees? None, I guess I will go ahead and make the appointments. Obviously, Commissioner Powell, congratulations again, you're on the Public Information Committee. And I'd like to say, I think you've done an excellent job on that committee, working with them, putting together the awards, showing all the things we've had to deal with these past couple of years. Y'all have done a real good job. Appreciate that. I'm gonna put myself on the Budget Committee. I'll be on the Budget Committee, Terry, is the only like one appointment.
Oh, no, you can have as many. I mean, whenever we have the Public Information Committee or the Budget Committee, we invite
Everyone,
everyone.
yeah.
So you can show up anytime, whether you're the appointee or not. But
Okay.
really, the most important thing is to appoint the chair of the
Okay.
committee.
I'll appoint myself to the Budget Committee because Commissioner Powell's getting a heavy load over here with everything he's got going on. And Commissioner Powell for the River TAC.
Okay.
So thank you, because you've got a lot going on here coming up with all these
I don't
meetings
work.
and stuff. So
Okay.
especially that TPO one, that's going to be an exciting one. I have no doubt coming up here. So thank you all for your interest. Thank you all for your service. And I think that's it. You need anything else from me? Matt and Tracy, okay? All right, we will move on then to our next item of business, item number 4, public input on items that are not scheduled for action on the agenda. Do we have any of those today? No.
We do not.
Okay. Moving then on to our next item number 5, action items. First action item is A1. Are they doing these together or should I announce them separate?
I think they're separate.
Okay, A1 LDC 27162, 27156, footnote 2, 27-283.7 and 27-282.10. Amend a total of 4 sections of the zoning code, and the presenter is Danny Collins.
Afternoon, everyone. This is Danny Collins with your Planning Commission staff. This is, our first item is LDC amendments, amending 4 sections to the Land Development Code for the city of Tampa. Whoops. Just a quick background, this amendment is part of the July 2021 cycle of LDC amendments. It's a privately initiated amendment. Just a quick summary of the request. Again, this is amending 4 sections to the City of Tampa's Land Development Code. Just a quick summary. This request would remove the calculation of a minimum distance for yards between residential buildings and establish a standard for yard setbacks between buildings at 15 feet for single-family detached, attached, single-family semi-detached, 2-family and multifamily buildings, as well as hotels and motels. Second change relates to the RM 24 and OP1 zoning districts. Currently in those districts, the LDC requires for each foot of building height above 30 feet to increase required yard setbacks to 1 by 1 foot. The proposed LDC amendment will amend the 30 feet threshold and replace it with the 35-foot threshold. The third change, the amendment would remove the visitor parking requirement for semi-detached residential uses. And the fourth change is currently the code allows entrances to multifamily and single-family attached uses to face interior courts, plazas, and similar design elements without the approval of an alternative design by the zoning administrator. This would remove the requirement for approval by the zoning administrator. The Planning Commission reviewed the request and find that changes will continue to refine the LDC by making a uniform separation distance requirement. The request would also ensure parking requirements are flexible by removing the visitor parking requirement for semi-detached residential uses. And finally, the request supports land use objective 9.3 to create compatible development to sustain stable neighborhoods and ensure the social and economic health of the city. Based on those considerations, the Planning Commission staff recommends that the proposed LDC text amendment be found consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the Imagine 2040 Tampa Comprehensive Plan. This concludes my presentation, and LaShawn Dock from the city is on the line for a brief presentation. Thank you.
And good afternoon, commissioners and chairman, and congratulations to all on your appointments. And this is LaShawn Dock with City Planning. And if I could share my screen, please. Okay, so you should be able to see my presentation now, full screen. And I'm here before you today to present to you a privately initiated text amendment. Danny has given some background on it, and I'll go over and review a couple of things briefly with you on the request. So as Danny mentioned, the request is a part of the January amendment cycle. The applicant is Steve Michelini and John Lum. They have submitted this request for processing. And as mentioned previously, they are requesting to amend 4 sections of the code. I would like to review with you and give a little background on the request. The applicants came to the city a couple of years ago with a list of items that they were looking to amend in the code. What you have before you is the list, and there were 9 items that ended up coming before us. This wasn't the original list. The original list contained many more items. It was actually bundled down to 9 items, and this is through conversations with staff and through conversations with the public. From the 9 items, additional items were eliminated through a series of our public information meetings, all of the meetings it took to get to this point today to get before you for this planning commission meeting. So what you have before you is a total of 4 items that the applicant is moving forward on. And I don't want to go too much into detail on each item because Danny has gone over them, but the first item was the yards between the residential buildings and creating a consistency on the calculation to determine the yards between those buildings. I have put on each slide the city staff's findings, and on the request, we support all the items that are moving forward. And you'll see that on each slide. The second item for request was the actual building height, and staff supports this request currently in the code under the RM24 and the office professional districts. Once you reach that 30 foot, then you have to increase your yards by a foot. So staff does support this amendment to the 35 feet. And it is to make it consistent with the other residential districts where the maximum building height is at 35 feet for the other residential districts in the zoning code. Then the next request regards the number of off-street parking spaces required for visitor parking spaces. The staff does support this request. I can share with you that initially this request included all the uses. The applicant modified the request. It would apply only to the 2-unit residential. Staff does not object to this request. What we find is when you have a 2-unit structure or dwelling, if you will, and let's say you're providing the visitor spaces, if a portion of that unit is sold off later, then you've got 1 visitor space that, how do you split it between 2 units? So staff supported this request to apply only to the 2-unit residential. And then the multifamily townhouse style designs, and this is the front entrances facing the courtyards. Many requests that come before us, also that come before council in a site plan request. It requires the submittal of a waiver to the code whenever a design proposes an entrance to a courtyard. And so staff does support this request. And this was actually one that was clarified, the request from the applicant to apply only to the courtyards. This excludes alleys. So for our next steps, we're slated to go to City Council in January, around mid-January, and then the second reading would be scheduled after the first reading has been approved through City Council. So we're looking at a timeframe of likely February for final approval. And this concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions, and also the applicants are on the line. Steve Michelini is on the line, and I'm not sure if John Lum is on the line, but I know Steve is on. And I will turn it over to Steve.
Good afternoon, commissioners. This is Steve Michelini. We've been working on these changes with the city staff and discussed this with the planning commission staff for almost 3 years now. We started off, as LaShawn pointed out, with an extensive list of issues that had arisen through rezonings, variances, and permitting that ended up bogging down the system, and it was very complicated to some of these to deal with. The calculations between buildings is a very elaborate process, and in meetings with the staff, we asked for to just define an interior separation between buildings as a minimum separation. and we arrived at 15 feet as being acceptable. On the second provision, the RM24 is the only residential district in the city that has a 30-foot. Hello? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you.
RM24 is and OP1 are the only two districts, and RM24 is the only residential district that has a restriction of 30 feet. And as LaShawn pointed out, single-family residential is 35 feet. And so we were trying to make that standard for all residential districts, and this would change the minimum height from 30 to 35 feet before you add additional setbacks. The request for eliminating the visitor parking for duplexes was again discussed and worked out with staff, and they had no objection. And the final request was to allow multifamily townhouses to face an interior courtyard, which is a design and safety provision, and it also adds for a more efficient use of the property. So we would respectfully request your approval for this, and I'll be happy to answer any questions. And again, staff in both the Planning Commission and the city staff, these are all issues that are being supported by them. We have vetted this over, as I said, several months recently and over 3 years from the time it was first discussed. I'm available for any questions you might have.
Thank you, sir. All right, we have a couple people sign up for public comment on this item. So we will go down the list here. First, we have Carolyn Bennett. And I want to remind everyone, 3 minutes per person.
Hi, my name is Carolyn Bennett. I'm a lifelong resident of Tampa. For a while, the city has been working on a massing study. This has been in the works for, like I said, a good while. This is going to be presented to the Tampa City Council in February. So I believe this is premature. There's no reason to rush this. I don't think that these changes should be made until after the massing study has been presented. Maybe there's some proactive changes that can be made in the code that would make the new construction compatible with the surrounding area. And again, like I said, after the massing study has been looked at and examined, there might be some things that come out of that that would affect us. So there's no reason to rush into it. The character and the safety can be compromised with much greater massing. Trash collection can be an issue. Open space is an issue. Parked cars on the street is an issue. Stress on the infrastructure. It can make the surrounding area more hazardous. And again, basically, let's wait till the massing study comes out and see what it has to say before we make changes like this. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next up, we have Stephanie Pointer. Is Stephanie Pointer on the line?
Hi, good afternoon, Planning Commissioners. I'm excited to have both of these proposed text amendments are on the same day at the same time. Makes it easier to speak, short and sweet. We call the privately initiated text amendment the PETA, and they live up to their name. I believe the LDT 27-162 et al. Proposed by Mr. Michelini and Mr. Lum is a perfect example of why we need to do away with these. These gentlemen started out with 9 amendments. That's a ridiculous amount in one document. They should have been limited to 1 at a time. Mr. Michelini will argue that the PETA is needed. By who? I'm really not sure. It certainly must be the developers because it's not the people. It costs $666 to submit one. Most people don't have that kind of money laying around to change the rules for the city. If we start, by starting with 9, They didn't drop to 5 because they were addressed in other ways. They dropped because it appeared it was difficult for them to explain why and what they wanted in multiple meetings with the neighborhoods. The PETA presented by Mr. Michelini and Mr. Lum should not be passed. They should not move forward. It is time that the city allow the experts to write these amendments. Thus, the city has proposed that these costly and time-consuming items be done away with. Leave the experts to do these jobs. I've seen 3 PETAs presented to the citizens in the last couple months. All had gaping holes in them. I saw one that went before city council last week. Also, it had a gaping hole and it was continued. You're wasting the planning commission's time, city council's time, staff time by continuing this process. It's not staff's job to explain the intent of a PETA. Let's let the experts be the experts, not the folks that think that want to do things their own way and changing the rules for their own interests. Let's let the city staff who employs the experts and the planning commission staff be the experts. Please vote no on this text amendment. Please vote yes on the following text amendment. Let the experts do their work. Oh, by the way, 30 to 35 feet doesn't sound like much unless you live in a house that's only 10 feet high and you get to watch another monstrosity being built next door. Have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next up on our list of commenters, we have Debbie Zimmerman.
Thank you and good afternoon. What I would like to advise the Planning Commission about is that these details cannot be addressed within a 3-minute public comment. We had an extensive conversation with the applicants and it really highlighted the significant issues, particularly with the second and third bullet points. And I don't know if there's a way that Zoom meeting can be available for all of you to see, but I'm on the Davis Island Civic Association on the zoning committee. We're very opposed to the change in the footnote. These new attached single family or attached townhomes are becoming extremely massive in our community, definitely changing the character and creating some safety issues with regards to deficient parking, trash collection, and then just orientations of sites are changing. So there's a lot of opposition to that. We've put several formal letters into City Council. We have been waiting for over 2 years for the massing study because what is being built in large parts of South Tampa is much more massive than what was there before. And we say, what is the reason to rush it? There's plenty of development. Development does not seem to be impeded by this not being in the code right now. And we say, take a little bit more time, view the massing study, make sure that the language doesn't have unintended consequences, and maybe the language should be written to where it pulls in incentives to achieve many of the things that we hear in the other meetings that we attend to. So we feel like if you listen to the full meeting that we had, you'd get a lot more insight on this. We feel that there's a lot of inconsistency with things that we're participating with in the city. I know that the Davis Island Civic Association has put in numerous letters of opposition, and we just please say, can this be delayed until after the massing study? And if possible, could the Planning Commission members please listen to the information that's been held in Zoom meetings? And I believe LaShawn has access to all of that, and she's been a great facilitator. So again, thank you so much. And thank you for the time to comment.
Thank you. All right. I don't have anybody else sign up for this one on my list. Right. All right. So we will turn it back over to the applicant, Mr. Michelini, for a 3-minute rebuttal period.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. There's nothing in here that creates additional massing or causes stress on the city system regarding trash or traffic or parking. we still have to meet all of those codes. What it does do regarding the height is it makes it standard and all across the board for all residential projects. So even the single family homes are allowed to be built at 35 feet in height. And this has been extensively vetted through the city system. It has had the analysis and the discussions with every expert that's available with the planning commission staff and with the city staff. And that includes all 4 of these proposed text amendments. And it doesn't matter, you know, whether we had 9 or when we started off, there were a large number of issues that had arisen, and it's been refined down to 4 through all of these different discussions with the city staff. The calculations between interior buildings, there's a very elaborate form where you multiply the height times the width times the length, and we had engineers look at it, we had city staff look at it. They all came up with different setbacks. So we were ending up going to the variance review board for interior yard setbacks that made absolutely no sense. And then when we sat down with the city staff is the one who recommended 15 feet. And we said, great, that, you know, we can move forward with that. Allowing multifamily townhouses to face the interior courtyard is, you know, it's a design element. That doesn't increase massing. It doesn't increase demand on city services. You still have to meet all of the parking requirements. And visitor parking for duplexes, as city staff pointed out, became problematic because if you sell off one unit, who controls the visitor parking space? So this cleans up several different small issues with the city, and we're respectfully requesting your approval.
Thank you, sir. All right, with that, I will open it up to the commissioners for questions or comments on this item. Well, I have lights, so we're gonna have to fix on some kind of hand waving or something here. You okay, Commissioner Linkus? Yes.
Thank you very much for the presentation and also for the comments. I was wondering if you could clarify, I'm looking for the language, but there was some discussion about the 35-foot threshold being consistent with others. Can you just elaborate on that a little bit more for me?
I think you might want to hear that directly from city staff, but every other residential zoning district has a 35-foot height maximum. And what this would do is change that to a 35-foot height instead of 30 feet. What happens in this district is at 30 feet, you have to set back an additional foot for every additional foot in height. And that would kick in at 35 feet instead of 30 feet. But LaShawn can confirm that.
Yes, LaShawn Dock, City Planning, and yes, within the zoning code, the setbacks are determined based upon the zoning. For the residential single-family zoning districts, the setbacks and the height are determined, let me clarify, in the zoning code. So regarding the height, in all the residential single-family zoning districts, the maximum height is 35 feet. In the residential multifamily zoning districts, you have residential multifamily RM 12, 16, 18. The maximum height is 35 feet. When you get to the RM 24, as Steve has mentioned, the height is at 30 feet. You have that maximum where you could exceed and go up to the 60 in height. But what happens is at 30 feet, from that point, beyond that, you'd have to step back another foot in your setback. And what he is proposing is instead of you doing that step back at the 30, do it at 35. And the height.
Thank you. That's
So
clear.
does that help? Okay.
All right, are there any more questions or discussion from the commissioners on this item? Yes, Commissioner Cardenas.
Yeah, removing the visitor parking for semi-detached residential uses. And I think if we're looking at that in the context of one duplex, that's one thing, but if we're looking at, I don't know, 5 duplexes or 10 duplexes, all built together in a community, that adds up to a lot of visitor parking.
So if I could, this is LaShawn Dock again with city planning, just a point of clarification. So what would be removed in the zoning code, we define the dwellings by the unit count, and by its proximity, whether it's attached or detached. So what we're talking about here is a 2-unit that's attached, and that is a unit that would have a shared wall. So that is what this would apply to.
So, in reference to, okay, so that could be a townhome that is 2, that share a wall, that can be considered a duplex. I mean, we've got some of these structures that are coming in at, large amounts of square footage. And if we were to remove the visitor parking for that, if we're to have get-togethers, or you have one of these structures that has, 4 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms. Nowadays, how many people do in a family household have parking, have a car? So I don't know if you guys want to go back and forth on that a little bit and have some thoughts and discussion on that.
If I could step in here for a second, this is not about a group of duplexes. This is about standalone duplexes. If you had 4 or 5 of them that were in a series along the same street, that would not be considered a duplex. That would be considered a series of townhouses. I don't know, LaShawn can probably clarify that as well.
So even if you have one duplex, that's 3,000 square feet, and the other one's 3,000 square feet, you've got four bedrooms in there, 3 bedrooms in there. How many parking spots is that for that one duplex? And then on top of that, any additional visitor parking that they would need, that'd be a large amount.
Well, normally you have 2 in an enclosed garage and 2 in the driveway. So the visitor parking is considered to be over and above the 4 that you're providing for the townhouse to begin with.
Okay. But there are townhomes that have one garage.
I'm sorry, say again?
There are townhomes that get developed that only have one garage instead, a garage for 1 car instead of 2 cars. I mean, those are plentiful in our community.
I'm not sure that you have any recently developed that are like that. Not unless they received a waiver or some kind of a rezoning that did away with that requirement. I've seen some that have tandem spaces, but again, that's through a rezoning, not a standard building development requirement.
And commissioners, if I could, this is LaShawn Dock again with city planning. In the code, parking required is determined based upon the number of bedrooms. So if you have 1 to 2 bedrooms, 1.5 spaces are required, parking spaces. 3 or more bedrooms require 2 spaces. And this is when we're looking at multifamily. So if that helps you in the consideration of the parking that would be provided versus that's your minimum parking that's required, plus you would be adding the visitor. And what he's talking about is eliminating the visitor space only with the 2, when there's a 2-unit with a shared wall.
Let me also add here that if a developer, for example, were building a series of townhouses, that would not be considered duplexes. That's a development that would be reviewed in a very different manner. And again, LaShawn can confirm that, but you're not getting away with something because you have a series of duplexes. This is if you have, as I said, standalone townhouses that are duplex with a common wall. One other thing I was going to add here, if you had a series of duplexes, you would be subject to the subdivision regulations as well, not just the rezoning. And the subdivision would also control parking spaces and layouts, things like that.
Thank you, Mr. McElhaney. All right, we have a question or comment from Commissioner Press.
Just because I live and breathe parking issues in my day job, you'll find me supporting any reduction in requirements for parking. Affordability, it's going to make an impact there too. And if visitors have to park on the street, I see that as traffic calming and not necessarily a bad thing. Not every visitor is going to be driving to the place, so I think in this case, it sounds pretty reasonable in my opinion.
Yes, Commissioner Linkett, please.
I would just comment that I think that the streamlining, especially about the switch to 15 feet is just a lot more clarity, it creates a lot more ability for people to understand what's in the code, streamlines the process. And I think it still protects the interests of the community. There's still a setback there, but so I think some of these things are very much consistent with the vision of creating an urban environment that is livable, that allows people to come in and create affordable development and different kinds of development opportunities. So it seems to really streamline things in an effective way.
Yes, Commissioner Powell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This text amendment doesn't really apply, but I heard a lady say earlier that recommendation to do away with partly initiated text amendments at PDES, which is a great acronym. Probably haven't thought about that yet. However, if it should ever come to the board, I hope that no one would truly support that, because how else would the public be able to engage with local government in order to effectuate possible changes? So I mean, it's a great tool to be able to bring something even to someone's attention. You agree that probably more developers probably do use it than private citizens, but it's still a great avenue. It's a great tool.
Any more discussion or questions from Commissioner Handy? Yes.
I have a question on the 30 versus 35 foot threshold. And if I'm envisioning this correctly, what I'm picturing are like blocks of apartment buildings that would go from possibly 20 feet between them to the 15 feet between them, because we're doing away with that 1 foot per. If we're going from 30 to 35, so we're essentially they're losing that 5 foot space in between those buildings. Am I getting that right?
I think you're misreading that. The height and the interior building to building setback does not affect the exterior setbacks to other property lines. This is on the interior between buildings. It would not in any way change your exterior setbacks that are required. And the 30 to 35 feet on the setbacks is what ends up happening is you have to submit a design exception to achieve that other height, or you seek a variance or a rezoning. And so it didn't seem reasonable to have to do that for one zoning district for a residential when it's not required in any other district. Did that answer your question?
No, I mean, yes, sort of, but I did not have that. Yes, I was picturing the interior spacing, not exterior.
So you may be required to have more of a separation internally if, for example, the fire department determines that you have too many openings in the windows and you have to comply with the table 600 of the construction code. But we were having a lot of trouble determining what the interior lot separations were between buildings. And as I said, we had city staff, we had 3 different engineers, an architect, all look at the calculations, and none of them came up with the same separation. Finally, we just said, okay, fine, we'll just go and seek a variance for that. And that's why we were asking for a standard minimum setback of 15 feet, which could be increased, as I said, depending on the building code for fire separation, either from life safety or the standard building code. So you're starting off at 15 as opposed to some other calculation, and like I said, it was very confusing.
I can understand the part about streamlining and not having to go through staff time and variances and that sort of thing. I guess it just seems like comparing the 24 units to other districts, I mean, there is a reason for that. We've got a whole lot more units. I don't think it's comparable to a duplex, for example. So I understand the homeowner's concern. And I actually do sympathize with the whole, with her position on PIDAs, because it's always the developer that promotes those types of things. And it's always because it's in their best interest to do so. And it's not easy to get, I commend the planning commission staff for doing away with the 4 of the, or 5 of the 9 that didn't cut it. But I can certainly sympathize with the position that she's making there. It's not easy to turn down the deep pockets when they're asking for something that is in their best interest. And I'm on board with all of it, except for that I think maybe the space in between the buildings, because I could see where in a higher density multifamily situation that the higher spacing between the buildings would be desirable.
Well, you're not changing the density. You understand that, you know, with an RM24, you're allowed to build at 20 units to the acre by right if the land use supports that, without going for a bonus provision or, you know, some other extraneous type of instrument. So you're not changing the density. You're just changing the separation between units, and this typically arises with smaller projects, not high rises. So anyway, it sets a minimum setback between buildings, and then the rest is determined by the building code and the life safety code by the fire marshal.
I understand, and that's exactly what I am saying, is the separation between buildings. I see an advantage to having the ability to have more spacing between buildings.
Well, you will have that if the building department or the fire marshal determines that it's needed. You're not eliminating that. You're setting a 15-foot minimum standard. And then the rest of it remains with the building and the life safety code. If you saw the calculations, and you would be pulling your hair out, because nobody is really calculating the same things. And LaShawn can tell you, we went through the mathematics on this, and it's a very, very difficult mathematic process to determine that.
Any more comments from the commissioners, or questions or discussion on this item? Not seeing anyone in the room, and Commissioner Dickerson's not moving online, so I will go ahead and close public comment on this item and open it up to motions from the commissioners. Commissioner Marino.
I move that we find proposed LDC text amendment, LDC 27-162, 27-156, footnote 2, 27-288.7, and 27-282.10, consistent with the amended 2040 Tampa Plan for this recommendation at Tampa City Council.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Marino. Is there a second? Commissioner Bernstein? Commissioner Bernstein, a motion of approval by Commissioner Marino, second by Commissioner Bernstein. Is there any more discussion on this item from the commissioners? And then at this time, I'll ask the clerk to go ahead and do a roll call vote on this item. I will ask the clerk to do a roll call vote on this item. Can they hear me? Can you hear me?
Beg pardon. Bernstein?
Yes.
Cardenas?
Yes.
Dix?
Yes.
Handy?
Yes.
Kress?
Yes.
Linkus?
Yes.
Marino?
Yes.
Powell?
Yes.
Joseph?
Yes.
Motion carried 9-0.
Thank you so much, commissioners.
Thank you. All right, on to our next action item. 5A2, it is LDC 27-147, 27-148, and 27-151. Amend text amendment process, and the presenter is again Mr. Danny Collins.
Good afternoon. This is Danny Collins again with the Planning Commission staff. Our next item is LDC amendment relating to LDC text change or related to the change to change the LDC text amendment process. I'm sorry. Just a quick background. This is part of the July 2021 cycle of text amendments. This amendment was publicly initiated by city staff through an active motion by Tampa City Council. Currently, text amendments applications can be submitted by City Council on its motion, the code administrator, or by any property owner or his or her agent. This amendment would remove language in section 27.147, enabling text amendment applications by any property owner or his or her agent. Currently, there are 2 cycles for text amendments. Those are in January and in July. The request will enable City Council to initiate a text amendment outside the normal text amendment cycle. They can initiate to correct an unintentional error, to address strategic initiatives, to correct conflicts between sections or chapters, or to amend procedural matters. The text amendment would also amend section 27-148 procedures for amendment applications. The Planning Commission staff reviewed the request and found the proposed changes will help streamline the text amendment process, enable the code administrator to process LDC text amendments outside of text amendment cycles, which was consistent with land use policies 8.15.1 and 13.4.1. The amendment will also provide certainty and clarity in the text amendment process, which is consistent with land use objective 8.15 of the Tampa Comprehensive Plan. The Planning Commission staff recommends that the proposed land development code text amendment be found consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the Imagine 2040 Tampa Comprehensive Plan. This concludes my presentation, and I'll turn it over to LaShawn Dock from the city.
Thanks so much, Danny. LaShawn Dock, city planning staff here. And if I could share my screen. And so you should see my presentation.
Yep.
And I'm here before you today to present to you our publicly initiated text amendment. As Danny has given you a brief update on the request. This is publicly initiated. This was directed by City Council. So what I will review with you today is some of the actual language, the changes proposed. I'll also just touch upon our outreach efforts. And more importantly, we'll review the effective date and our timelines for processing. So to expand upon our background, that was provided by Danny, City Council directed staff to bring before them a couple of options. There was a concern regarding the inability to process out of cycle text amendments. So staff came before council. The first request that we submitted, the first option was to have 2 publicly initiated cycles and have 2 privately initiated cycles for a total of 4 cycles a year. Council directed staff to actually come back before them with additional options, and that is what you have before you today and what I will review with you today. So with the current process, some of the challenges that we face is that because we have the privately initiated amendment cycles and the publicly initiated cycles, oftentimes there was confusion regarding whether the request was public or privately initiated. What we wanted to do is to just provide a little, just an update on the processing schedule on a typical timeline, whether it is a privately initiated or publicly initiated text amendment, just to give an idea. If someone were to submit, and just to take a step back, in order to submit For a privately initiated amendment, you would pay the fee for the amendment, and then it is processed through the cycle. If it is a publicly initiated amendment is a request that is initiated by City Council, the zoning administrator, or planning manager, or the mayor. Those are the ways a publicly initiated amendment can be processed. But this just gives you a timeline. This, of course, is based upon council's calendar and also, of course, planning commission calendar. So when you have times of the year, like now for holidays, it kind of adds to this timeline. What we're looking to accomplish with this request is to provide consistency in the process. And this way we would have our publicly initiated amendments, which would be processed. We'd still maintain our biannual processing of the amendments and provide opportunity for certain time-sensitive matters, which could not wait for the next amendment cycle. What we're looking to do is to have this take effect for the July cycle. This is the July 15, 2022 cycle. So this would take effect for January. This would allow still to maintain those 2 cycles a year and add in the additional opportunities for amendment request. What I've done is provided the actual code language within the presentation. For this particular section of the code, the first section we're looking at amending is 27-147. You can see the current code is on the left, and then on the right, the revisions. It removes any reference to the privately initiated. Our next section of the code, this is a pretty large section, but I still wanted to provide you with the actual language in the strike through so that you could see it visually. This is 27-148. This is the current code as it exists today. This section includes your procedures for amendment applications. This even goes into detail regarding rezoning applications. What this does is the request would remove subsection A, which is referencing the text amendments. The next section is 27-151. This is the current code. And what we're proposing to change in the code, this is the strike through language. So anything that is underlined is text which would be added to the code. Anything that where you see the strike through, that would be removed from the code. And I wanted to touch upon our public outreach. We had a public information meeting was held in September with this request. And then we've also gone before City Council. It has been a City Council workshop, but this request is following our same cycle and process that any text amendment would follow. I oftentimes speak about public outreach, but never discuss how we conduct our outreach or the ways that we notify the public. These are some of the ways that we send out our notification regarding our public information meetings. We also send out an email blast to a list of contacts we have, neighborhood associations. So that's just a few of the ways that are shown here before you. And again, our effective date would be July 15 with that cycle. The final cycle for privately initiated text amendments will be January 2022. We wanted to allow adequate time to notice the public. We just realized that land use decisions are made every day based upon the current zoning codes. So we just want to give an additional time to have another cycle. And then this will take effect. So these are our next steps. We're looking to have City Council first reading in December, and then we'd have the final adoption hearing in January. So this concludes my presentation, and I am available if there are any questions.
All right, thank you. And we had a couple people sign up for public comment on this one also. So we will start with Carolyn Bennett. If she's on the line, Carolyn Bennett.
Hi, can you see and hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Please go ahead.
Oh, okay. I've been a neighborhood advocate for about 4 years now, and this sounds like a good idea. It sounds on paper like it's a good way for neighborhoods to have an impact and to be able to make a change that they think would be beneficial. But the reality of it is that if you ask most neighborhood advocates, they would not even know this exists. I did not know it existed for years. And when I found out about it, I really didn't know how to submit one, but I bungled my way through it and I did the best I could. And I went to submit it and I found out that it cost $666. I don't have $666 to spend on that. And most neighborhood advocates are in the same position I'm in. And recently, the city staff did a presentation to city council saying that almost all the surrounding municipalities charge like $2,000. And they were saying, if you're going to keep privately initiated, you need to raise the fee. Well, that's out of reach for us. Plus, we don't have the expertise to write something like that. So instead, what we did is we went to our elected city council person and told them what we wanted to accomplish, and he submitted it. And the staff has fully vetted it. I have personally participated in at least 3 or 4 meetings on this, including city staff and legal department. And I know that they are very fully vetting it. It's not going to just be presented as it was originally written. There was a PETA presented recently that I tried to understand. It was 60 pages long. It was written by development professionals. It was 60 pages long. On page 1, it said it only applied to a single neighborhood in the city. On page 7, it said it applied citywide. These PETAs that are being presented by the professionals are dense, they have unintended consequences, and they are a bad idea. The neighborhoods do not use them. I do not know of a single PETA submitted by a resident. These PETAs are really a vehicle for people with deep pockets to custom tailor the code to suit and benefit themselves. And please vote to end the privately initiated text amendments. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next up we have Stephanie Pointer. Stephanie still. Yep. Stephanie Pointer.
Stephanie, you can hear us, your mic is muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, we got you.
I'm going to echo Carol Ann's sentiments. I also know that 60-page document. I actually read it. I don't know any of you that probably have a whole lot of time to sit down and read 60 pages. I think that if you look at all of these and how they're submitted and the different formats and the craziness behind them, I would say that, this process has just become a joke. People do what they want to do because they have deep pockets to do it. This is not for the people. This is not for the neighborhoods. This is not to benefit anyone. This PETA process is exactly that. The publicly initiated should be allowed because it can be done through our city officials. And for the love of God, if nothing else, they should only be allowed to propose one thing at a time. Not 9, not 12, not 65, but 1. Honestly, I think it's time to get rid of it. It's time for the developers to understand that this is not their city. The city staff, works really hard, but it's not their job to explain away somebody else's inadequacies. And we do appreciate them, and they work very, very hard. And I sent you a copy of the video for the earlier hearing. Please take the time and take a look at it. Have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Next up, we have Debbie Zommerman. Is Debbie still with us?
Thank you. Yes, I'm still with you. Thank you. I am echoing the sentiments that were previously discussed by LaShawn Dock and the two other residents that I believe the PETAs should be abolished. I have been working with my community for probably 10 years on zoning matters, and we get extremely frustrated because when things such as this PETA are submitted, it will have concepts that oftentimes are not vetted in the context of everything that the city is trying to do. So we will go in and we'll go to the meetings on resiliency, and we'll go in meetings where they want to see growth developed and spur where growth is developed. Well, these PETAs come in and they aren't necessarily consistent with the long-term vision of the city. And every time you go in and you make a land development change, you're likely increasing the development rights of whoever owns the land, and you're not going to be able to change those rights to the extent that you need to take other actions for resiliency purposes, or maybe you need to make modifications in infrastructure to accommodate multiple modes of transportation. So what we find with these PETAs, and we meaning I'm on the Davis Island Civic Association board, but I also am active with many other neighborhood communities, is that this lack of cohesiveness is resulting in decisions that can almost be, they're actually detrimental to other initiatives that are going on with the city. So we respectfully request that you support the request of the city to abolish these PETAs. And that will allow the process to really become much more cohesive with all the other departments that we need to work with as these changes are made. And again, thank you for the time to make the comments. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. And that is the end of our list. We have, or I have, of people signed up for comments. So we, at this point in time, I will turn it back over to the applicant, the city. They would like to do any rebuttal. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you so much, LaShawn Dock, City Planning. I'm available if there are any additional questions, and we do respectfully request that you find it consistent and we can forward it to City Council for first reading and future adoption.
Thank you, LaShawn.
Thank
All
you.
right. I will turn it over to the planning commissioners at this point in time for comments or questions. Yes, Commissioner Marino?
Yeah, thank you. I'm sorry, apologies for running away. Yeah, thank you, Ms. Dock, for the presentation. I have a couple of comments and I have a question. Regarding privately initiated, and Ms. Dock, if you can kind of help me walk through this for a minute. This caught my eye because there was, when this first came up, one of the privately initiated amendments was an amendment that would reduce the size of the buildings in the channel district. And the person who filed it is an investor in another building in the channel district. And I think I have that part correct. And so to me, that's an example of this system being used for the purposes that it was not meant to be used for. Obviously, you want more density, you want to develop that area, and limiting the height of buildings for your own personal benefit of your property seems not the proper use. And that same cycle, though, was an application to amend the sections of the Central Business District and your own parking regulations in downtown. That was filed by one of our fellow commissioners working on behalf of the organization that they work for. Which leads to my first question. Can there be a carve out in this that will allow a registered civic association, a registered neighborhood association you know, a 501c6 or an organization that has helped develop an overlay district, that they would still be able to participate in this process. But an individual, you know, would not be able to sort of make sure that the items that go forward at least have some level of vetting, because they are based upon the interests of a registered organization with the city.
Yes, so I'm happy to address that, Commissioner. Thanks so much for that question. LaShawn, Doc City Planning. Let me clarify for a moment, because I didn't really touch upon that in the presentation, and I apologize. So when we're talking about having publicly initiated text amendments process, it would not eliminate the ability to request an amendment. It's just that anyone could request it, whether you're a neighborhood association, any organization. You'd be able to request the text amendment. You submit the request to City Council. What we're working on in concert, so that way, if this is adopted and has final adoption, are a set of what would be considered similar to standard operating procedures. It's a list, and it's a checklist for the public. And it would state, if you're meeting this criteria, you submit, and this is how you would submit and apply. You can submit your request to council. It doesn't have to be the actual code language with strike through. This is the request we would like to see. It goes to council. Council would then direct the planning staff to review the request and come back and report to them. And then we would review it, vet it through the departments, come back to council. This is our proposed timeline for processing. This is the request, with basically a breakdown of the request and our ability to process it with the recommendation. So this is how we see this process working. And this way, anyone, whether you were able to pay a fee or not, you're able to still request an amendment. And whether you're a larger organization or not, you can still put through the request to City Council. Does that help to answer the question?
Yes, yes, but, and that leads to my next question. So, you know, as you're going through your presentation, in my mind, what I'm thinking of is that this is like a piece of legislation. So is this, you know, if you're going through the City Council process, is this something where you envision, or the staff envision, sort of as if it's a piece of legislation that you need sort of a sponsor and a co-sponsor, and then during a certain period in a City Council meeting that these can be brought up for their discussion? Or is it simply City Council files request, you know, an individual member of City Council files a request with staff, and then staff works on it? So can you explain maybe that aspect of it?
Yes, what we envision is that staff, City Council, so the request comes to council, council directs staff, and staff works on the request. A sponsorship is not required. It's not needed. During the process, we have it open for public comment. So maybe whoever is the requester, they can certainly speak in support at that time through any of our public hearing processes, because it's still, after planning staff goes back to council with a report, if you will, then it still has to go through the same process. We have to hold a public information meeting, and which is open for public comment. We have to come before the commission. We have to come to briefing and the public hearing. We still have to go to council, but it's all staff representing it, staff presenting it. And then if comment is made, it's during the public comment session.
Keep going.
Sorry, and just to, and maybe I'm getting too in the weeds here, but so just for clarification, so in the course of a regular Thursday City Council meeting,
yes,
this never comes up. So if I'm an organization, or if I'm a civic association, and I say, well, I want to change part of my overlay district, I'm not on the City Council agenda. I just have to send an email or a request to a City Council member, and they forward it on to staff. Is that which?
So You're almost there. Yes, there you would forward the request to council. Council then would need to bring that up at a regularly scheduled meeting during a public session. And then council would then mention that we've received this request. Council has to decide as a group. They're going to recommend the planning staff look at it and come back before them with it. It's not that council would actually forward it to planning staff without that public forum.
So in a sense, then council is voting for this to go to staff, and then staff works on it. And then council would have a first reading and second reading on it. So they would essentially, council will be voting on it 3 times before it's approved.
Well, so council would direct planning staff to work on it. Planning staff comes back to council with that report. If council says move forward with it, then we still have to start the process. We haven't even begun it at that point. We still will hold a public information meeting. We still have planning commission briefing, planning commission hearing, city council first and second reading. So it's still going to come back to them again because it's not the official council workshop or the official public hearing at that point. It's just council saying, okay, move forward with it.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Absolutely, you're welcome.
Any other questions? Yes, Commissioner Press.
So I think to clarify, what I heard is that someone at council does need to kind of sponsor it to bring it up. I mean, you could send your request to all 7 council members, and if none of them bring it up at me, then it's not going to go anywhere. Did I get that right, LaShawn?
Well, I think what would happen is council will bring it up no matter the request. I don't envision it where council would receive the request. I don't think that was the intent, and they may never bring it up. They have to at least bring up the request that was submitted.
Commissioner Bernstein?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I had 3 separate questions. One a specific question for you, I think, Ms. Dowdy, then a couple broader questions about privately initiated text amendments generally. But the first question, I just want to make sure I understood it right. Section 27151, I think, was one of the text amendments, and there was language in there allowing for out-of-cycle amendments to be considered. And one of the exceptions, I think I saw, was to address strategic initiatives. You call that language?
Yes.
And-
Yes, yes.
So my question was was that language always there, or is that new language? Strategic initiatives.
That is new language. The
So,
slide you're referring to is section 27-151, and that is the comprehensive review of land development code. The language that you saw is all new language. It would allow us to correct unintentional errors, address strategic initiatives. We can correct also conflicts between sections of the chapters of the code. That was there before. It's in a different area. It's how we have formatted it. I can share it with you again if you'd like to see it. And we can implement changes to address state legislation and also procedural matters.
thanks. The reason I asked, I just wasn't sure what would qualify as a strategic initiative. Is that interpreted fairly broadly? Who decides what a strategic initiative is? Is that just something at the discretion of the council?
It's going to be directed from city council.
Thanks.
It may be something that's submitted, let's say, if you could envision the legal department submitting something, or there's a request for some point of clarification in the code, it could come from that venue, from that avenue. But it still has to end up at council, and the council has to make the direction to staff.
Got it. Thank you. And
Absolutely.
The other 2 questions, you may be able to comment on this. Otherwise, I guess I might direct it even to our executive director. But there was discussion about the application fees with regard to private initiatives being, I think they're characterized as somewhat exorbitant for the average citizen. And my only question on that is there a hardship exemption available for such applications? Anyone know?
LaShawn Dock again with city planning. We do not have, unfortunately, we don't have a hardship criteria or a situation where we would allow for a hardship. We have nonprofits that have asked us. We have religious institutions that have wanted, and we don't have that in our code.
Well, and it may be outside of our purview, but I guess I would just opine that perhaps that's something for a future date that should be contemplated and to address at least specific challenges that citizens may face. And then the third point, there was discussion about, the question of whether we should even have privately initiated text amendments, and by no means am I offering up a motion, because my personal opinion is that we've got to always strive to allow for private input in these matters. But do we even have the authority to do away with privately initiated text amendments if we wanted to? I don't sense that that's something that's within our authority.
Well, again, the planning commission is not the final deciders. All you are doing is providing an opinion on whether it is consistent or inconsistent with the comprehensive plan. City council has initiated this amendment. City council is the final determiner of their procedures.
Thank you. And that was my sense too, but I think it's just important to reinforce that from time to time, not just for ourselves, but for others who are getting up to participate. That's all I have.
Yes, Commissioner Kress.
So through the nonprofit where I work, we submitted a PETA in July of 2020. And I think LaShawn has done as much as she can to shepherd it, but it has not been a smooth process. I had to pay the fee. I had to spend, thousands of dollars to find someone to write the code for the changes that we wanted to see. And ultimately, it still hasn't gone in front of council. So ironically, I'm going to city council members right now to see if we can't, kind of have it be heard. So in light of the experience that I have had, I think that probably going to council in the first place probably would have been a smoother path for us. So I'm not sure that the current system, at least for in my one time I've done it, is not very smoothly.
Any other questions or comments? Yes, Commissioner Marine.
Thank you. Yeah, I just kind of branch out of Commissioner Bernstein's question. The strategic alignment, I think there's a lot of things that can be considered strategic, especially when you're talking about overlay districts. I was just searching here, Parkland Estates is an overlay district. That's, it's a neighborhood, so Parkland Estates is a neighborhood. But they are an overlay district. They're in state law. Obviously they're in city statute. Previously they had a court case regarding commercial properties within Parkland Estates. And so I just think the term strategic, I guess, what is strategic for an overlay district or a central business district may not be strategic for the rest of the city, especially when you're talking about like parking codes, when you're talking, street frontage, sign regulations, things like that. So, I mean, I just think that, that can be applied different ways. And then the last thing I wanted to add too, and again, I guess off for Commissioner Bernstein's point, ultimately city council is going to determine how they do this, but I think there should be some mechanism for registered organizations to be able to have priority. And especially it sounds like there's no guarantee that city council would even hear an issue. And so if you were to go to all 7 members and say, hey, look, we want to do this thing, all of our members want it, or all the folks in our neighborhood association want it, there's no telling what could happen the other side of that conversation, where someone goes to then all 7 city council members and say, hey, if you do this, I don't agree. And now you're lobbying behind the scenes for something that hasn't even seen the light of day yet. So those are my concerns with it. But I just go back to the fact that you have these overlay districts. You have different codes, different standards, and they're all being developed in part with public participation. So it's not the random person or, sending in an initiative or someone who owns a building in Channelside saying, well, I don't like this other building competing with mine, so I'm gonna make sure every building is half the size of mine. It's obviously staff is in a hard place trying to be the sort of arbiter in that circumstance, but I think there should be some credit given to those organizations who are already working on this, whether it be an organization like mine or Commissioner Press's, or like I mentioned, Registered Civic Association, or Registered Civic Association.
Thank you, Commissioner. Or questions or comments by the Commissioner? More discussion? Check and see if Commissioner Dickerson. Seeing anything online or in the room, then I will go ahead and close public comment on this item and open it up to the commissioners for motions on this item. Commissioner Bernstein?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This time I would move that we find proposed LDC text amendments, LDC 27-167, 27-148, and 27-151, consistent with the imagined 2040 Tampa Comprehensive Plan, and that we pass that recommendation along to Tampa City Council for consideration.
Second, Commissioner.
Motion of consistency finding by Commissioner Bernstein, a second to that motion by Commissioner Press. Is there any more discussion on this item, commissioners? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to go ahead and do a roll call vote on this item.
Bernstein,
Yes.
Cardenas,
Yes.
Dick,
Yes.
Andy,
Yes.
Kress,
Yes.
Linkus,
Yes.
Marina,
Yes.
Howell,
Yes.
Joseph.
Yes.
Motion carried 9-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners.
All right, thank you, Ms. Doc. All right, moving on to our next item. It is briefings and presentations. The first one is 6A, Tampa City Council redistricting process, and the presenter is Yassert Gonzalez.
Yes, indeed. Good afternoon. This is Yassert Gonzalez, Planning Commission staff. I'd like to congratulate everybody that was selected today to the new offices, and also happy committee assignments to those that were appointed. If I may share my screen then. Okay, can everybody see my screen there, please?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So once again, this is Yassert Gonzalez, Planning Commission staff. This item comes up every 4 years. We have a review of the council districts population, and we make recommendations as to any changes to the boundaries, and we're going to go into some detail on that. So some of you that have been on the board for a while, on the commission for a while, may recall this item. The first thing is that the agenda, again, 4 items. One is the Tampa City Council. We're a fast-growing region, so we're going to go very briefly as to what is the composition of Tampa City Council. Why do we go through all this effort? And then the rules that we follow. And lastly, the process that we're going to be following. So the first thing is the City of Tampa has a governing structure of a strong mayor and city council system. There are 7 council members. Districts 1, 2, and 3 are at large, while districts 4, 5, 6, and 7 are single-member districts. Why do we redistrict? Why go through all this? First of all, it's required by law, by state law. It's also required by the City of Tampa Charter, which has recently, as of like 2019, they amended it. So we are. That's why we are a little bit out of cycle. Some of you that may remember this item from previous iterations. And it is required every 4 years. So about every time before a municipal election, you'll see us here coming to you for this. Again, the next election is March 7th, 2023. And legal requirements that we following is that you will, we will make recommendations, staff will make recommendations, and you will be approving this, an alternative out of a number of alternatives. In this case, we have 4 alternatives. And the supervisor of elections, upon approval, supervisor of elections will proclaim said districts, new council districts, again, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And then we go back to the city of Tampa for an information item, letting them know these are the boundaries for the districts and everything else. Again, continue on the legal requirements. This body holds 2 public hearings. The staff will bring information to these public hearings, including a recommendation at the second hearing. Again, we are moving entire voting precincts. We try to, compact and contiguous districts. We strive to do that. And again, single member districts, the population for districts 4, 5, 6, and 7, which are single member districts, the population should be as equal as possible. And we're referring to total population. Again, this is the infamous or famous American history class gerrymander drawing. Again, we're trying to avoid that. So we are trying to do our 3 C's, which is complete districts, compact districts, and contiguous districts. Other considerations that we have, there's been a lot of news items about, members of Congress being moved out of their districts. We're not doing that with city council members. We are preserving the places where they live within their current, council districts. We tend to have a conservative approach. And again, we minimize negative impacts, such as retrogression, which we're going to talk about that a little later. Again, there's a lot of some sort of confusion. The standard is total population. That includes the entire population for the council district. No voting age population or no population by race, but it's total population. And again, per direction or the city charter in the latest amended form, it's a block level data that we use from the census. They say use the latest census data, so we're using block level since 2020 data. We use a concept called a range, and this range is again a measure of equality, which we're going to show you a little bit what the range looks like currently and what the proposed ranges will be. But that's what is called the range. Again, currently the range is 5.57, as you see at the bottom of your screen there. That is above what we would like it to see. We're aiming for less than 5, which every proposed alternative achieves that goal. Now, we are going to go ahead and go very quickly through these alternatives. We're going to come back with these alternatives to you. So no need to panic or take hurried notes right now, as we're going to come back to you. And of course, I will be delighted to, on a one-on-one basis, meet with any of you that may have a question, like we've been doing with council members at the city of Tampa. So which we'll talk about that as well. Okay, so every alternative reduces the range by less than 5%, as we've seen. We are moving districts from a highly populated council districts, precincts, highly populated council districts to lower populated. We're proposing that move. Now, as you may recall, the city, the shape of the city is elongated from north to south. So not a lot of room for movement there. It has a lot of skinny, a lot of parts. So we're somewhat limited physically also by the requirements that we're following. So again, not a lot of action in terms of moving precincts. It's just surgical moves, as you will see. And very important, no retrogression. And what that is for Council District 5, which is East Tampa, we are trying to preserve the majority African American in the council district, as has traditionally been. And for West Tampa district, the Hispanic have been a strong force there. We're trying to continue to maintain, them to be a formidable force, to 24% or more for them there. So all our proposed alternatives, observe these 2 rules. Again, we're gonna go very quickly with alternatives. They're available online. I'm happy to discuss them individually with you. So no need to get, worried if cases say we just lost them over. And again, we press for time as well today. So again, alternative 1, only 2 precincts again, minor populations being moved around, looking at their center around, Bush Boulevard with the North Boulevard area, as you can see, top of the screen there. The range is 3.5%, that's alternative one. Notice how, citywide, that's what it will look like. Alternative two, again,
Check
small
one, check
population,
two from the first
considering
floor.
that 90,000 people contain around 90,000 people, 90,000+ people every district.
Check.
These are really not a lot of population being moved, not a lot of people affected. So, but again, we gotta move in order to make sure that the population
Copy
stay,
that. Got you voted. Thank you.
equal.
Same.
So again, two districts moving between 6 and 5, and also
ready?
moving district 7 there. Again, this is what it will look like. Again, range, small range,
2330.
14%, bringing it from 5.57, significant. If we have in the
460.
alternative 3, again, we have 3.
The first four digits are 2330.
Similar situations.
460.
Relative to the large size of the districts.
0014.
Kennedy, Azale, Kennedy, no, so we could see the South Tampa by many, or the North South Tampa, if you will. So again, we're just moving those and swapping districts. Some are going up to 6 and some are going down to 4. Again, this is what it looks like. And finally, alternative 4, which again, we're gonna go over this individually with you, or that we have website information. We can send you the presentation so again, digest it at your leisure if you like. Again, similar area down the northern end of South, we would consider South Tampa there, around Morrison Avenue, Manhattan Avenue, Palmacia, and we're moving and swapping districts in order to achieve again a lower range. Alternative 4 is what it looks like. Key dates, again, the reason we're going to key dates, we mentioned it a couple of times. Why is that? Because the city charter has been amended as of recent, circa 2019. So the dates have shifted. It used to be April, now we're going back to June. So again, we're currently gathering public input. However, we're meeting with council members and we're trying to reaching out to stakeholders such as Hillsborough Democrats, Hillsborough GOP, NAACP, Hispanic Services Council, League of Women Voters. We've reached out to them and said, hey, invite us to your meeting so we can talk to you about this. But we're doing a soft opening of sorts for the fall because we don't want a conflict with the county's redistricting effort, which is now hot and heavy. As you know, there's a meeting right now about Hillsborough County redistricting. So again, that's why we are like doing a soft opening. But come next year, we're gonna go really aggressive in trying to outreach the affected precincts and trying to. June 10th is by the drop dead date by which the commission needs to act. We're planning to bring something to you between, for the first sitting between February and April. That way it gives plenty of time in case there are any issues. And then once you approve and the supervisor of relations proclaims, then we can go back to the city and say, hey, these are the new districts. So just an information item. How the public may get involved, or you, again, if you would like to attend our public, we have in-person meetings scheduled for the spring. And you can help us spread the word. We are going to be targeting, doing a lot of heavy social media and also outreach via a newspaper, traditional media. And we're gonna do interviews with try to get interviews with the TV and radio stations. Anything that you can, again, forward or retweet or do anything that you think reach out, or perhaps of a group that may be affected that you would like us to go out and reach out to them specifically. We're happy to do so. So just let us know at your leisure. Again, we are asking for people to tell us the most preferred alternative, but it is this body that has the final word on any alternative that's provided. Again, so what we're doing is just gathering feedback, make sure that we're not missing anything, and that people are aware of this going on. And again, very simple to send comment to staff. Anybody can just send me an email, and I will put my email at the end here. And you can send me an email saying, hey, we like this alternative, or we have a question about this alternative. Not difficult to send input on this. Or if we also have a formal form, if somebody would like to do that as well. And again, during the public hearings, there will be 2 of them. There will citizens can come in and participate. To conclude, just again, this body, the Planning Commission, with that commission from staff, we'll evaluate the 4 alternatives and approve one of them. And then we establish hosting meetings with hopefully stakeholders such as NAACP, HSC, Hillsborough Democrats, League of Women Voters, etc. And also in-person meetings where in those precincts that are bound to change council districts. Anybody else don't need to be bothered because it's business as usual. So we're not trying to excite anybody unnecessarily. Again, 2 public hearings and approved by June 10th. No retrogression. In the citywide election is March 7th, 2023. But as you know, there's have to be residency requirements. They have to be all these other legal deadlines. So that's why we're working closely with city attorneys. We're working closely with our partners at this Supervisor of Elections Office in order to make sure that we are, being kept on our toes, there's accountability, and that things are moving along at a satisfactory progress. Again, this is my information. More than happy to answer any questions from the commission, from the attendees to this meeting. And we have a full website that's been already on for about a month now. We also have a Spanish version of all documentation on the website. So again, English and Spanish of that, given the fact that the city has nearly 30% Hispanic. So we're trying to make sure that we're reaching out everywhere we can. Thank you for this opportunity. Really excited about this project. Really excited about talking to anybody about how this affects them. And thank you very much. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. Are there any questions or, yes, Commissioner Dix?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think this is absolutely fantastic. And the planning commission is involved. I've stated an opinion several times. I wish we could do this statewide. Confidence level that I have in our staff compared to some of the things that happen statewide. I do have a question, actually 2. One is that when you were putting up the numbers initially, you had a range. You wanted the districts to stay within 5% of each other, or at least a range of 5%. So where it looked like those districts were close to 100,000 members, I guess 90,000 voters, 96,000, I think was the number actually. Is there a reason why 5% was the range? That seems like a rather big range in today's technology. It seems like it could even be tighter than that and make it even a smaller range.
Yes, indeed. It's traditional. That by tradition we have had 5%. Remember, this goes back. We've been doing this for a while, and that's what we thought. We could potentially tighten this, but remember, we are working with whole precincts, not smaller geographies. Therefore, 5% is what allows you to kind of move one precinct. And notice all the little swapping we have to do to achieve 5%. So it is not as easy as you want once you have to, because you want to keep precinct boundaries, respect them. So it's not as easy. So again, 5% is what we work with a fairly large geography for these purposes, like voting precincts. Now, if you were going to like a block level or parcel level, you can definitely get into but then you would have, I think it would become, the number of calculations will increase significantly. And for somebody right now, they can take a pen and pencil and be able to trace what we did. Once you go into the lower level, they will need tools and software to be able to do that. And so that we had a meeting. One of the comments was from the participants of the meeting was that some of the things were too technical. It will get way too technical once you start getting into like a block level thing or like a parcel level discussion.
I get it. That's a good relevant point. I hadn't thought about having to stick within the precincts as opposed to going down to block level. That makes logical sense. The other thing is, this may be my vision, my eyes may have seen it too quickly. We didn't see the maps in our materials. Alternative number 2, and I know these things may change, but it looked like in alternative 2, South Tampa was blue, shaded blue, and it looked like there was actually some shaded area up towards North Tampa, like you were skipping and picking up some people up in central and northern Tampa to join South Tampa. Is that my total imagination? It's an alternative 2.
Alternative 2. Okay. No, alternative 2 talks about it's moving, and I can just share real quick.
And again, it can be by total imagination and not the end of the.
No, so you see, we're moving, okay, we're moving from this one, alternative two, council, we're two precincts, 318 and 338. 318 moves from council district 5 to 6, and 338 from 7 to 5. And this is the visual. As you can see, these are considerably lower. This is more like the Seminole Heights area, or like going, so that is what we're seeing there. So again, it's essentially moving, 338 there in the middle to the West Tampa district, and moving 318 to the West Tampa district, and 338 to the down from council district 7 to 5. So again, that's.
Thank you. I think I see it, and we couldn't see it from the vantage point we were at. And here, the areas that you were talking about moving, they're highlighted in blue, and that's what caused me to think that it was.
Oh, I see.
To this blue.
My apologies for that. And again, more than happy to forward you a copy, whoever would like. Let us know if whoever would like a copy of this presentation.
The districts have to be contiguous. That was simply the point. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Diggs. Is there any more questions or comments, Commissioner? Anyone? Let me check online to make sure, Commissioner. No, not seeing anyone. All right, well, thank you for the report. Good job, you sir, and we'll look forward to coming forward again.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Enjoy.
All right, on to our next item. It is TTCPA 21-03 Comprehensive Plan Amendment for Temple Terrace 10-year Water Supply Facilities Plan. And the presenter is Diego Guerra.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Diego Guerra, Planning Commission staff. This briefing on text amendment 2103 to the Temple Terrace Comprehensive Plan. This amendment serves as the regular 5-year update to the 10-year water supply facility work plan and modifies the potable water and wastewater section of the comprehensive plan. This is a publicly initiated amendment, and the 10-year water supply facilities work plan is required to be updated per Chapter 163 of Florida statutes following the regional water supply plan adoption, which did occur in November of last year. The backup documentation included in your packets is provided only as background information, is not to be adopted. The background information includes a detailed analysis and report prepared by the Planning Commission staff that examines projections, sources, and project options. This was a multi-agency coordination effort with information provided by Temple Terrace City staff and Southwest Florida Water Management District. The amendment includes the updates to the work plan table, as well as edits to the water-related policies in the water and wastewater section of the comprehensive plan. The purpose of this amendment is to fulfill, again, the statutory requirement to update the 10-year water supply facilities work plan, which, with the updates to the work plan table and the comprehensive plan policy language as indicated in your packets. At this time, no action is required on this item, and public hearing is scheduled for 6th December. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you, sir. Was there any questions or comments on this item from the commissioners? Seeing none, we will thank you and move on to our next item. PCCPA 2106 Comprehensive Plan Text Amendment Plant City 10-year Water Supply Facilities Plan. Mr. Guerra, please.
Should just let my screen up. Hello again, everyone. This briefing on text amendment 2106 to the Plan City Comprehensive Plan. This amendment serves again as the regular 5-year updates to the 10-year water supply facilities work plan and modifies the public facilities element of the comprehensive plan. This is a publicly initiated amendment, and the 10-year water supply facilities work plan is required to be updated per Chapter 163 following the Regional Water Supply Plan adoption, which did occur last November of last year. The backup documentation included in your packet includes a detailed analysis and report prepared by Planning Commission staff that examines projections, sources, and project options. Again, this report is background material, background information, and is not adoptable. This was a multi-agency coordination effort with information provided by Plant City staff in the Southwest Florida Water Management District. The amendment includes the updates to the work plan table as well as water-related policies in the public facilities element. The purpose of this amendment is to fulfill the statutory requirement to update the 10-year water supply facilities work plan with updates to the work plan table. At the request of city staff, we did look into providing edits to water-related language in the public facilities element, which city staff have reviewed and incorporate a one water approach. Ladies and gentlemen, there's no action required on this item. The public hearing is scheduled for 6 December, and I'm open for any questions you may have.
Great, thank you, sir. Is there any comments, questions from the planning commissioners on this item? Not seeing any, we will move on. Thank you for the presentations. We will move on to our next item is 6D PCCPA 21-07 Future Land Use Map Amendment, west of North Wilder Road, south of South Wilder Loop, and the presenter is Krista Kelly.
Thank you very much. You all can see the screen, I hope.
Yes.
I'm great. I'm presenting Plant City's Future Land Use Map Amendment, CPA 2107. The site is located in the northeast portion of the vision plan. It's just north of a major activity center at Park Road and I-4, right down here. And this is the site up here, or I'm sorry, this is the site right here. It's north of Sam Allen Road, and it's on the west side of Wilder Road and south of Wilder Loop. This is an aerial showing a closer zoomed in version of the site. You can see it's heavily wooded. There are 2 single-family homes on site. The area is rural in character. There is a mobile home park directly adjacent to the north. Home sites on larger tracts to the east and south. And also to the south, the land is agricultural, but it is part of the North Park Isles planned community that has been approved in the past. And this is somewhat of a remnant parcel that will be included. It's a privately initiated amendment on 9.72 acres approximately, which makes it a small scale amendment. It was part of an annexation and therefore has a Hillsborough County Residential 1 land use designation. The applicant's requesting a change to Residential 6, a Plant City land use category. This is a map showing the current adopted map, and as you can see, it is whited out, but the site is currently designated Residential 1, a Hillsborough County land use category. The area in the county surrounding the site is Residential 1 predominantly. To the west, again, the North Park Isles properties. To the northwest, west, and south are Residential 9. The applicant's requesting a change to Residential 6, and that would be very comparable, in fact, identical to the land uses surrounding the site. I wanted to point out that in July of this year, the Plant City Commission adopted an amendment that also there was another outstanding or an out parcel that was changed from residential 1 to residential 6, just south of the site and right here. I don't know if you recall it. It's a long sliver. This is the proposed future land use map. Again, now it shows the site the same as the surrounding area, residential 6. The impact of this change would essentially allow for the potential of 49 dwelling units, increasing it from 9 units to 58 dwelling units on site. The timeline for this plan amendment, it's anticipated to come to the Planning Commission for public hearing December 6th, for the Plant City Planning Board December 8th, and the date for the Plant City Commission's adoption hearing has not been scheduled yet. It's running concurrent with the rezoning. That concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have about this proposed amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Krista. Are there any questions from the commissioners, comments on this item? Yes, Commissioner Andy.
I'm looking at these maps, I'm not entirely sure what's the status of the annexation and
Right.
where this falls. It looks like it's right now outside of that blue line, which is the jurisdiction line. I'm assuming that's the Plant City boundary line.
Right. It's very hard to tell because the black line, let me get back here. Oh, I'm sorry. Let's see. If you can see between the black dots, there is a blue line. And the annexation has, my understanding is that annexation has been approved. And what they're waiting for now are the plan amendment and the rezoning. So it is within the boundaries of the city, but it's not, it doesn't have the appropriate land use and zoning. But you're right, it's hard to see.
So it's in the current boundaries, the existing
Yes.
boundaries of the city or the proposed annexation boundary?
It's within the city limits.
It currently is.
No, they moved the boundary to bring it in.
Okay.
Any other questions on this item from the commissioners? Comments? Seeing none, we will thank you for the presentation and look forward to it coming back before us. And we will move on to our next item.
Thank you.
And that is item number 7, our executive director's report.
Thank you. I'll try to be brief with a couple of updates. I wanted to let you know that since your last meeting, the Board of County Commissioners did act upon the Waimama and RP2 amendments. They were all approved and adopted. They should go into effect in December, is what we are anticipating. They also took up the discussion of Pine Key Island, which I know is an interesting amendment. They have asked that to come back to them in December. They wanted to look at the possibility of either us creating a land use category for it or it going to the natural preservation category. And they wanted us to meet with the applicant about those options. We believe that it will go to the, that we're in agreement with the applicant that it needs its own, a new category. So we'll be working on that. So there'll be a text amendment coming forward in a future cycle to reflect that. I wanted to thank you all for your support of the awards program. I thought it was, it went great, but we'd love to hear from all of you who were able to attend about that. We'll be scheduling a public information committee meeting between now and the end of the year to get to kind of debrief and get some feedback from you all about, because we tried a new format, a new location, all of that. So would love to hear from you all about that. A couple of things that we've been looking at as part of the plan update for the Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan. We are looking at a contract for some support on the update of the future land use element. It's a contract less than 50,000, so something that I would be able to execute, but I wanted to apprise you all of it. We're looking at asking VHB that has to do some work for us on that. We also have been approached by the city of Tampa and the county asking us to do some work looking at Fowler Avenue and the land use along that corridor as it relates to implementing the transit-oriented development that HURT has been working on and developing a redevelopment vision for that corridor. I will be attending the TPO's policy committee meeting on Wednesday, where they'll be having some discussion about a number of projects that are kind of all coming together in the university area and discussing some of the next steps. And the city and the county will be there to discuss the next steps, and that they're asking us to support that effort. So that's what I had to update you all, and happy to answer any questions.
Yes, Commissioner Diggs.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just real quick, are we any closer to spending any less than 157,000 for the legal matter?
I don't know about any closer. There was supposed to be a hearing the first week in November that did not occur. So I am not sure exactly. It has not gotten rescheduled. I'm sure that means there's some sort of legal proceedings occurring. But it's sort of, from the last I heard, kind of in a limbo, awaiting the next steps.
I just expressed frustration, but it's not happening.
I understand.
It's just a situation.
Yes, it's a lot of money.
Thank you.
Commissioner Diggs, yes, Commissioner Linkous.
The Fowler Avenue piece interests me, especially wearing my Temple Terrace hat. I'm thinking about how folks like Temple Terrace, who are not often at the, we're just sort of just outside of the borders of a lot of what happens there. But I think visions of involving folks like Temple Terrace, USF, and UACDC, some of the group commissioners will be affected by the many projects that are going on in this area. It would be an interesting opportunity to so I'm wondering if maybe the planning commission could help be part of ways to think about maybe bringing together some voices as those processes move.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because that's exactly why they approached us, because DOT is working on a PD&E to actually convert one of the lanes of Fowler to a bus-only lane, which is the first time they've ever done a PD&E in this district that's not been for widening the road. And so the county and the city want to make sure that the land use comes along with that, and saw us as natural because we work with all of the jurisdictions, and there are 3 involved in that corridor. Additionally, because of having the TPO staff in-house, we've got great connections with, and we're already supporting the HURT TOD study, as well as great coordination with DOT. So kind of the convergence of all those things is what led them to identify that they just needed to have one group moving forward on the land use, as opposed to them trying to kind of deal with it separately.
That's great to hear.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Just gonna quickly ask, I see we've all got Form 8Bs in front of us, that a reminder that they're coming due.
No, this is related to a conflict Commissioner Cardenas has in the hearing, and I think we were told everyone needed to get a copy of it. Anything else?
Questions or comments? All right, moving on to our next item. Thank you for your report. Item number 8, other business. 8A, chair's business. I have none. Old business. Anyone have any old business? Yes.
Question. Chair is, that replaced,
That can replace Commissioner Doughty?
yes, I've already forgotten.
Yes, the gentleman who was appointed by the county in, I guess it was the end of September, has had a conflict. Well, his work has made him go through some legal review of whether or not this position would be a conflict with his employment. He has, shared with me this morning that he should get a resolution of that this week, so hopefully he'll be able to join us, or if he's not, we'll know that and they'll have to re-advertise for the county position.
Yes, Commissioner Dix.
Congratulations, to Commissioner Press and Commissioner Marina, for being reappointed. I think that's wonderful. Continuous service and knowledge.
Oh, that's cool.
I haven't even heard that. So
I'm glad to deliver the news.
tell us.
I was following it closely because no one ever told me I had to be in front of council the next day, and give a 3-minute presentation either. Streamlined.
Yeah.
She's buying dinner.
Nice. All right. Anyone else for old business? No? Any new business? Seeing any, I will turn it over to committee reports. Rebuttal.
The River Board did not meet, so I don't have any update on that. There is a meeting tomorrow. On the affordable housing, we did meet today. I think the biggest takeaway that I had was the local housing incentive strategies. So that was been put forward, and that goes to the board for final approval. There was some information that was also disseminated regarding the the child tax credit program. So if you know anyone who doesn't know about that, reach out to staff. They can provide some additional information about trying to get this funds a little bit earlier, sooner rather than later. In regards to the PIC, thank you to all who were able to attend the event. I think that it went really well. There was more behind the scenes planning that staff did, so I have to really commend Melissa, Lynn, and everyone for really making that event really what it was. I personally enjoyed the new venue and having a change of scenery. I think we had maybe over 100 people for sure, but I know that our next virtual meeting will have all of the numbers, so exact figures for the economics.
Yes.
Thank you, Chair. For the City of Tampa's Affordable Housing Advisory Committee, we had a meeting on October 20th. The city also approved their incentive strategies to report back to the state in their annual action plan. That was the big takeaway. The other good news is that the city has decided to take $16 million of their money from this put it towards the affordable housing program. That's in addition to the $4 million. Some great things. Clear.
Nice. Thank you, sir. Are there any more committee reports from commissioners? All right, seeing none, we will move on to our last item, item number 9.
They're saying they can't hear you.
Oh, we've seen no more comments or no more committee reports from the commissioners. We will move on to our final item, meeting adjournment. And we will adjourn this meeting 5:31, and we will see you at what, 6 o'clock? 6 o'clock for the public hearings to begin. See you guys on the other end, meeting adjourned.
We love that guy.
First time I've ever done.